Hi, welcome to the third episode of Mirrors. I'm still your host, Moses. Today we'll be speaking about the real truth about imagination. The first question we should ask is, what the effect of what imagination is? Imagination is the painting of a particular picture, not real to the senses yet, as it were. And it is very important to note that imagination is what builds every human being. Imagination is what differentiates every human being. Imagination is what carves or what decides every human being's fate. You might believe it or not, but it actually is. Think about it for a minute. All the things you buy when you have money is a product of what you've imagined to buy. Some people have looked for money for so long, and when money comes, they spend it on things that they didn't think about at that point in time. That's because in their imagination, it was seated something that wanted those things. And when the availability came, they began to get them. Imagination separates everyone from every other person. What makes the great man great and what makes the small man small is the imagination. What do I think about myself? What do I think about the world? What do I think about why I exist? Most times when people talk about imagination, they liken it to a lion. They liken it to an eagle. But let's drop the eagle for a minute. Let's look at the lion. When a lion moves in the forest, it sees every other animal as small. As a matter of fact, it sees an animal as meat. It just feels by default that it is bigger. It just feels by default that if I see this animal, I'm able to overcome it. So when an elephant comes towards a lion right now, an elephant just, because of the attitude of the lion, it begins to imagine itself as meat to the lion. If I walk into a room, what makes me effective is the way I see myself. Because if I see myself in a particular way, I will be able to produce what I see myself as. I was working in an office in 2018. And my boss called me into the office and he made some statements to me that I didn't even know that I had. He said, have you noticed that whenever you step into a room, life comes up? People who didn't want to smile begin to smile. He said, there's a way you carry yourself. There's a way you respect yourself. There's an aura you have with you. And that helps to build people up whenever you come into a room. He told me, take note of that because that is your strong point. Many people are wanting to change certain things and they start by making actions without looking inward to what creates actions. If you want to make things happen, you must change the way you see things. Change the way you think. Even God has said, let the man not think he will receive something of me if he wavers. That means if you're not in a mental position to receive, you cannot receive. You cannot tell me that you have a negative mind and expect a positive result. It does not work. As a matter of fact, if you have a negative mind, the result will be fear, the result will be doubt, and you cannot produce as you want to produce. It's not possible. So, our imagination is much more important than we think it is. Our imagination is a gift from God. As I was studying what I was trying to talk about today, a picture came to my mind. Have you noticed that anything you throw into your imagination, it grows? The question is, what am I throwing into my imagination? I listened to Kevin Hart, one of his interviews, and he said his brother doesn't think of anything positive. He said his brother always tries to see the negative things in whatever is said or done. So they might want to plan a particular show or plan a particular event or have an idea, and his brother will always find the negative part of it. And sometimes people would interchange negativity for criticism, and they tell you, oh, your plan needs to be criticized. But then, inside that criticism is a very high level of negativity. It is your duty to differentiate it. No matter how big your dreams are, no matter how large your ideas are, if you don't work on your imagination, there's no way they will come to pass. Even the Bible says that God is able to do exceedingly abundant, more than we can ask, think, or imagine, according to the power that works in us. So whatever would bring abundance, multiplicity, actuality, reality will come from within. Miles Monroe said something when he was speaking in one of his sermons. He said, a pack of sheep led by a lion will always defeat a pack of lions led by a sheep. Question is, what will the sheep be telling the lions as a leader? The focus is grass. The focus is, if there's a beast coming, the sheep will run. But a lion would always go for what it wants. And that is born from the fact that it thinks to itself that it's the king of the jungle. And so by default, every other animal that comes to it imagines itself as a prey. I mean, I watch several discovery programs and I see when these deers or these preys are with the leopards or the lions or these beasts. And if you look at the way they act, they always, at the point where they are being caught, they act like they are gone. The question is, how do you see yourself? God can have big and laudable projects that you should handle. If you don't see yourself as being able to, if you don't imagine that, if you don't give birth to it within your mind, there's no way it will come. There's no way you'll be able to do it. What your imagination does is that it gives birth to a particular side of you that is stretched for that activity. I went to visit a man of God this week, and when he was trying to finish up his church setting, I was amazed at the things that had happened in the setup. And while we were talking, he shouted himself. He said he sat down. He now imagined that, wow, he didn't know that this work he did was as big as it actually is. He said that if he had thought about it as big, he wouldn't have done it. But if you enter that project, it is filled with royalty. The lights, the ACs, the seats, the carpets, the mics, everything is of a very high class. That's because once he was able to give birth to the ability in his mind, it stretched him And before he could find himself, he had already gotten to about 80% of it. I was looking through social media today and I realized that he has almost finished. You cannot have a negative mindset and give birth to a positive life. So your imagination is the mechanism of any reality you intend to experience. So if you want to experience something, you must first give birth to it in your imagination. It has a way of turning you to the man you are supposed to be, or bringing close what you want to be. I've met people, I've sat down with people, and you see some people, they've formed a mindset. It's so bad that this mindset has spiraled into a place of destruction. You can't bring them out from that place of negativity or obscurity because they've allowed their mindset and their imagination to rope them into negativity. So if you tell them, will you be able to do this thing? Or you can do this thing? They would start by telling you that, how can it be? How can it be? And one of the most effective dangers, or let me say attributes or positive effects of the imagination, is the fact that it affects your mental health, it affects your physical health, it affects your future, your purpose, it affects your assignments. It affects your attitude. It affects your relationship. I cannot have a mind of a small man and begin to be friends with somebody who has the mind to overcome the world. It can't work. Because by the time you start communicating or exchanging communication or ideas, it won't lead to any profit. So whatever you did or whatever you do today is a result of an imagination of the past. Whoever you are today is a result of who you imagined yourself to be. When you have imaginations, it is God planting something in you. And when something is dropped in your imagination, it is your duty to prune it. It's your duty to pray and bake it. It is your duty to nurture it, just like you do business. No man starts a business without having the idea of what he wants it to be. And so suddenly he finds himself bringing up new theories, new ideas. Imagination is a very powerful thing. Like I said earlier on, it grows whatever you throw on it. That's one of the very many reasons why the devil is very interested with your mind. Because if he can get your imagination or your mind, then he can destroy or limit you. But there's a spirit in man, and the Bible says that the inspiration gives him understanding. So what type of imagination do you want to have? Do you want to have vain imaginations? Or do you want to have profitable imagination? I mean, it's your choice. Oh, I've had bad experiences. People have done me crazy stuff. People have disappointed me so much. I've made many errors. I've failed so many times. Yes. What is your decision now? Do you want to continue down the path of vain imaginations? Or do you want to change and begin to build a new set of imagination? Remember, God is able to do according to what you think or imagine. So most times, you are the ones giving God the opportunity to work. There are several ways to stimulate our imaginations that have gone dead. A lady said something. Don't stop saying what you want to see for yourself. Don't stop engaging yourself. A particular musician said, if men don't praise me, I will praise myself. In the Bible, David said he encouraged himself in the Lord. It is your duty to say to yourself what you want to be, what you want to see. You must confess it. Then you realize you find yourself, start living in it. This is the second thing I do, is that I write things down and I put on my cupboards. So that when I'm beginning to lose my way, I look at what I wrote and I'm brought back. It's okay to be lost sometimes, but remind yourself. Ask yourself purpose questions. You are created for a bigger purpose than you see. It is you to decide what to be written on your tombstone when you are gone. Doesn't matter how rich or how poor you were or you are. Doesn't matter how connected. It doesn't matter how wise. The lion is not the wisest animal in the jungle. Understand that. It's not the biggest animal in the jungle, but all it has is the fact that he imagines that it is what it is. The leaders that are leaders today are not the wisest. They are not the strongest. But they just imagine that they are the ones that are meant to be there. And something stretches them to that place. Build who you want to be in your mind. It is a blank check. Make use of it. That's why I like animation. They train children to think big, to imagine stuff. Stretch yourself, build yourself up in your mind. If that is how God has given you the opportunity, build yourself to the biggest. How to renew your imagination? You must change the perception of who you think you are. Change the perception of who people think you are. You made a mistake. A man said yesterday, I'm not in that address anymore. I've left that address. Address me in my new place. So somebody stole. That is who you were before. Change what you think you are. Why do you think you exist? Change your significance. Because most of the time we realize that we act out what people tell us we are. Also, understand that you are important to the human race. You were brought for a particular purpose. God is the giver of every life. So pray and ask Him to direct you. This is important. Think again. If you have to think 10 times in a minute, think again. Cast down whatever mindset that doesn't help you. Make it an intention to cast them and remove them. You have to throw it away before it grows, because like I said, the imagination is a flower bed. Whatever you throw on it, it will grow it. So the real question today is, what kind of imaginations are you forming? What have you formed? The answer is yours. If you are thinking bad, change to good. If you are thinking good, you can get the better. And if you're better, you can get the best. I hope these simple and few words are able to re-engage you in thinking. So when you go back to your bed, don't be quick to sleep. Think. Begin to create who you want yourself to be. Then you will find yourself being stretched into that person. And everything necessary for that will come to you. I'm not telling you lies or fables. I'm telling you the truth. It has worked for me and it's still working. Miles Monroe said, like this last now, Miles Monroe said that his imagination is what rose him from sleeping on the mat to fly in his own private jet. What do you want to see? make use of your imagination. And I pray that God helps you, a lot of us, including myself, to build what He has made us to actually be. Thank you very much.